sounding extremely tired now. We do not do those populist things. You can still get your point across without being rude. Ne? You can still get it across. Let's give Mamusi a good round of applause, colleagues.
Tifuna. Yeah. This is still remember. Oh, okay.
Okay. Song as na man. Song as na.
Okay, afternoon to everyone, especially the student leadership, seeing that it's your conference. So what I'll be covering in the presentation, it's based on the briefing that we were given by Satvetsa to say this is an induction of the SRC, therefore cover key highlights from the policy, the 2025 policy, which obviously governs how we fund and all of that. But in my presentation, I will also, as I'm speaking, highlight which aspects maybe we are proposing to add in the 2026, or where it touches on a certain process. I will then say this is how it currently is, but this is what we're looking at in terms of improvements for 2026. So that is how I will cover the presentation. So I think we all know that every year we do look at revising certain aspects of the policy, but we are wanting to move to a place where perhaps we look at revisions every 2 years and so on, but from 2025 to 2026, there will be certain additions that we will do, example, for occupational programs, because if you look at our current policy, it doesn't say much concerning occupational programs and funding thereof. So part of the slides will then reflect what we are proposing, and this is based on discussions that we have had with DHEAD, Abo Mr. Vele. We asked certain questions in order to probe the thinking along in terms of what has to go into the policy and speak more closely to occupational programs as well for 2026. So obviously the reason why there would be an eligibility policy, it's to make sure that every application, every appeal is treated in a standard way. That is why sometimes when students, you send your emails all over the show to the DHET colleagues, to everyone concerning NSFAS, and you want your case to be looked at in isolation based on its own merits. But that is not possible. So that is why you have a policy that clearly states what is the qualifying criteria, what are the guidelines. It's so that even the people that are processing funding and so on, there is one criteria that we look at when we are assessing. It is fair. We don't apply this to this student and that to that one. It's not based on how is this person feeling today, are they in a good mood or whatever. So that is the main reason why there would be a policy. So obviously I liked what the president, SG was saying, that if you are in a position of leadership and you don't read, how are you leading? So obviously, in this room, as the student leadership, I really should be just skimping through all of this, because when you assumed office, knowing there's an NSFAS, it funds the majority of the students in the TVET sector, it should have been one of your personal interests to actually read what the funding eligibility policy says. So the policy is really to make sure that the eligibility and the criteria is defined for funding. There are set conditions when people are processing for either bursary applications or appeals, and is to also ensure that there's consistency in how things are applied. I'm not going to go and name all of these acts, but obviously whatever gets to be in the NSFAS eligibility policy can't be in contravention of any of those acts. Then, briefly, eligibility criteria overview. I think by now we all know that the applicant must be a South African permanent resident or citizen, and also ultimately the aim is that you register at a public. I'm saying that because sometimes we get all sorts of requests where people have gone to a private college and now they are expecting NSFAS to actually fund them. So of course, another important thing to highlight, when you apply as a new applicant, even those that are in matric, you do not have to wait for results to apply as a first-time funded. You do not wait for results. We get this at various instances. For example, when students are moving from one trimester to another or semester to another, and they say, but no, I was waiting for my results. That's why I didn't apply when applications were open. You do not need to wait for results. Key also to highlight, in previous years, even this year, you would have noted that in January, NSFAS usually opens walk-in applications. That is not likely, very unlikely to happen in 2026. And the reason being, so when we open those walk-in applications, right, bearing in mind, I said students don't need to wait for the results to apply. So whether you're in matric or whatever, you apply, your assessment first is based on financial eligibility, meaning household income. So if we then open walk-in applications in January, at the most we close them at the end of January. So what does that mean in terms of administration processes? It means in January, we are still processing those applications while the student is already at the college expecting allowances and so on. So what we are trying to move towards is that NSFAS is going to open national applications from the 1st of September up until the 15th of November. All students who want to be funded by NSFAS for 2026 in the TVET sector, especially for the first cycle, they should then apply when applications are open from the 1st of September to the 15th of November, right? So that also applies to students that are going to study, whether it's annual semester 1 or trimester 1 in 2026. We will obviously, with the other terms like semester 2 and so on, open applications to align to those, just like we are open now for semester 2. But for cycle 1, students are encouraged to apply the year prior so that processing of applications can be finalized by December. And obviously when comes January, then students have funding decisions. So categories of eligibility, it's financial. We all know household income must not exceed 350. And obviously for students living with disabilities, it is up to 600,000. And then for students who had taken a gap in funding. So let's say you were NSFAS funded, and then you self-funded or you didn't study, now you want to come back and be funded again, you need to reapply, and NSFAS will then look at the last results of when they were funding you at the time. How did you progress? That is the only instance where we then refer back to the lost results where we had funded you previously. I also want to touch on the N+1 rule. We sometimes in conversations or discussions or in forums like this, you gauge even from the questions that actually the understanding is, we are not aligned in terms of understanding. So in the TVET sector, the N+1 is calculated based on funded academic terms. So we all know that if you are a student that is not funded under disability, you give an N+1, and then students living with disabilities are given N+2. So how do you calculate N+1? N is always the number of years or academic terms it takes you to complete the qualification. So you are doing a 3-year diploma, your N is 3 years. You are doing a qualification that takes 3 semesters to complete, your N is 3 semesters. You are doing a qualification that takes 3 trimesters to complete, your N is 3 trimesters. So your N is always the standard time. If you would complete your qualification in record time, that's your N. Then the +1 depends on the type of qualification you are doing. So for example, if you are doing a 3-year diploma annually, your N will be +1 year. But if you are doing a 3-semester program, it takes 3 semesters to complete it, your N is an additional semester. It's not now going to be an additional year. Then if your qualification is 3 trimesters, your N+1 would be an additional trimester. Also, the reason why we say funded academic terms, only in the TVET sector, it's based on did we fund you? So we will calculate how many of those academic terms did we fund you. The separation is that on the university side, the minute the student enters a university, we start counting on the N. So even if they were self-funding before, the N is going, we count. But for TVET students, if, for example, you entered, you were self-funding, and now you want NSFAS to fund, and then you self-fund again and whatever, we will only count the number of funded academic terms. Then lastly, around in the institution registration. So student applies, you get assessed for financial eligibility, you qualify, you are found to be eligible. We're currently using a status that says provisionally funded, which is likely to change for 2026 and says you are eligible. Now you are eligible, yes, but NSFAS is not going to obviously make any payments until we get the registration from the institution. That now, when it's uploaded, it's confirming that yes, indeed, you did go ahead and register at that particular TVET colleges, because we do get instances where a student applies, they get to be found eligible, but they don't get to register. So if you don't register, when you come back and decide to register, you can't use that status that you were eligible at that time, because you didn't go and study. You are then required to reapply to be assessed again for financial eligibility. When we get that registration from the institution, it gets assessed. Are you doing a funded program? I'll speak to that later in the presentation. Are you doing a ministerially funded program? So NSFAS doesn't go and sit and decide, oh, what are we going to fund? What do we feel like funding in the TVET sector? No. Every year around September, we get a list, the same list that's sent to your colleges, to say these are the funded programs. Occupational programs will also be on there. NSFAS gets the same list as well. So we are guided by that to say which programs are approved by DHEAD for funding. So if, for example, your reg is loaded and you are doing a program that's not on that approved funding list, we can't pay for it. So that is why it's important to note that when reg is loaded, when your status is on reg received, there is still that stage where we must assess and validate that registration. Are you doing a funded program? Is it the correct level that's loaded? Because if, let's say last year they loaded you for N4, they can't be loading you for N4 again. Are they loading the correct level? Are the amounts that are being loaded for allowances within the caps, within the approved amounts, etc.? So that is why you find sometimes, yes, you are sitting on reg received, but there is no payment forthcoming. It's because in many instances you'll find that that reg did not pass the validations. So even if a student, we do also get instances where a student has exceeded the N+1, the college loads the reg, that reg is not going to pass validations. And that usually happens because sometimes some students, they are funded by NSFAS, they go study at this college and that one and never finish. They come to a specific college, act like they are brand new in the system. Of course, the college doesn't have a way of knowing, but NSFAS does. So you might get it right in fooling the college, but when they load the reg, that reg gets validated even for N+1. And if it fails N+1, obviously there is no payment that is due to the student. So I know currently the problem that we have is that the last status of the student will stay on reg received, right? And they either get payments or they don't. So for 2026, what we also want to include is if that reg failed validations, is for us then to update your portal further than reg received to say, actually, no, it has failed due to N+1 or whatever the failure is, therefore you don't qualify for payment. That we are doing so that we obviously cut close the loop that is currently there, where students will say, oh, but I'm on reg receive, but I'm not being paid. So currently we do send the exceptions report to the college so they know why, but we also then want to update on the student portal for 2026 so that student also is aware, yes, I'm on reg receive, but I'm not paid because of this reason, whether you qualify or you no longer qualify, etc. So I think I've spoken to household income already. Financial eligibility then is assessed for everyone. I think Ukaya will speak closer to the forms and all of that are wanted upon application when he speaks to purely applications and appeals. Academic eligibility, nothing has changed, nothing will change also for 2026. So it's passing 5 out of 7 or 3 out of 4 in order to meet progression. PLP, we only funded once, so you are expected to complete passage in that 1 year and obviously move then to mainstream. So for occupational programs, we will be getting the progression indicator from DHEAD. And the reason why there we are not able to say pass out of 5 or 5 out of 7 or whatever is because those programs are not exactly structured in the way the others are structured. And I know that students have to pass certain skills in order to then progress to the next level. So in the conversations or discussions that we've had with the DHEAD colleagues, in particular with Mr. Vele, it was then agreed to say the progression obviously between the colleges and DHEAD will determine progression, and then NSFAS will just be given an indication whether the students then move to the next level and so on. So we will just get the indication of progressed or not progressed for occupational programs, and then the funding continues on that basis. Approved qualifications, nothing has changed as well. PLP, report 191 in NCV. And then when it comes to occupational programs, I remember I said we get a list of all programs that are to be funded, that we get around September for the following year. So part of that list now for occupational programs, when it comes to allowances, it will also give an indication which occupational programs qualify for allowances, which don't, because not all of them qualify. And so that singaqabani nani, we as NSFAS have requested that when those lists then get sent to colleges and ourselves, so when they get published, can there be a clear indication this one qualifies for allowances, this one doesn't, and so on, so that we are all on the same page, which ones NSFAS will just pay tuition and not pay the allowances on. When it comes to appeals, I think we all know that if a student, for example, there's a change in financial circumstances, or you are found that you are above 350 and you're disputing that, you can lodge an appeal. Ukaya will speak to the appeals process. So if a student is rejected, right, they've got a certain time period to appeal. Kaya will touch on that in the process. And then for continuing students, if you fail on the basis of not meeting academic eligibility, you can appeal. But the policy, it's very clear. It has to be because you were severely ill, and the period must be a period that's longer than, it can't be that you had a toothache for a day or two, you went to the dentist and you want to use that for the reason why you failed the whole semester or annual and so on. So the policy is very clear in terms of under which conditions you can appeal. Okay, so the policy is very clear under which conditions you can appeal. It can't be just because you decided to party the whole year and not pass, and now you know, the policy says I can appeal. There are certain reasons that apply to appeals, one of them being due to death of an immediate member of the family or severe illness, and all of those are stipulated in the policy. And of course, if you choose a reason for an appeal, the documents that you're uploading must also speak to that reason and not speak to something else. That is why another thing, remember, an appeal is you saying, actually, you are pleading, give me another chance. It doesn't mean automatically it will be approved. It is based on the assessments of the documents and also whether your reasons do tie up to the policy. I did say that it's not based on how this person is feeling today at NSFAS and etc. It's purely based on what the policy says. So even when you've exceeded your N+1, the appeal reasons are also specific in terms of severe illness and you must obviously prove those. It can't be you've exceeded your N+1, therefore you're just demanding another chance, but you can't prove the reasons relevant to the policy. When it comes to costs that are covered, so tuition fees are obviously covered in full. When we get the list of the programs, it also comes with how much the fees are supposed to be. Then NSFAS funded students, you then are not supposed to pay an additional registration fee because NSFAS will cover the full tuition, the full cost. So in instances where a student has more than one bursary, right, and they want to play around, get this from there, get this from there. So in the case of NSFAS, you can't, for example, say that NSFAS will fund me my allowances, that other bursary will fund my tuition, because NSFAS is not there. The primary reason for NSFAS being there is not allowances, it's for tuition. So you can get a college to claim tuition only for you, but they can't claim allowances only. There is no way that will cover allowances only. That is why, as part of the policy in the student responsibilities, if, for example, you have another bursary and it looks more lucrative than the NSFAS one, you are then obligated to choose one and drop one. And in that case, you obviously drop NSFAS and go with the other bursary. Your financial aid as well, they are then obligated to claim only from one. So they can't claim tuition from more than one bursary for you for the same academic term. We obviously also cover living allowances, personal care, transport, or accommodation, not both at the same time. And I did say that for occupational programs, we will get a clear indication which ones qualify for allowances and which ones don't. Then when it comes to students living with disabilities, they are also funded for, I forgot the word now. They get funded additionally. So for example, the student might need an assistive device. Let's say they need a wheelchair, let's say they need a specialized laptop. So those get funded as well for students living with disabilities. It does say on the screen there. And also that must be something that's more around long term, that in terms of the disability. Part of the application, you have to include the Annexure A and obviously also then a detailed medical report that specify the type of disability and also what type of assistance you would need, be it a specialized laptop or wheelchair or whatever it is that the student needs. So in the TVET sector, we currently still do notice that a lot of students don't declare upfront when they are applying for NSFAS funding that they've got a disability. We notice that students applying in universities, they are more likely in their applications to actually disclose the disability, or they are more aware of even what kind of disability it is and so on. But in the TVET sector, the students will apply, not indicate, but obviously when you get now to carry on with your studies, it does put the student at a disadvantage because you could have gotten an assistive device that you need, but now you are not getting it because obviously your funding is not indicated as such under disabilities. But what we do as NSFAS with the assistance of the college financial aid, a student can at any point of their funding convert to the disability fund. So let's say the student was never assessed and they now go and get assessed, they're already at the college and so on. The college official must then get the student to complete the Annexure A and also give the medical report and so on that specify the in detail, the kind of disability and all of that. And then we then do a conversion from the other DHEAD fund to the disability fund so that the student then also qualify for the assistive devices that they need. I'm almost done. So when I started, I did point to the fact that currently the policy has very little around occupational programs. And that is because NSFAS started actually last year to fund occupational programs. I think at the most last year it was hairdresser students. So we had a couple of engagements with the DHEAD colleagues, probed on certain things, and that is how we then got to have certain information that will then be added as extra clauses in the policy for 2026 in the NSFAS eligibility policy. So part of what will be added, and I'm also hoping that when it's your time to ask questions, you actually engage on the more important things, like perhaps giving your views or input of what further we can look at in terms of what I'm going to present now, the proposed inclusions for occupational programs in the 2026 policy. So the combined duration of the funding for occupational programs, right? The student can be funded for 3 years, but the qualifications, let's say you are doing one that's a year, at a certain NQF level, so you can be funded for another one next year, but it must be of a higher NQF level and so on. Then obviously after the 3 years, we are done with funding you and occupational programs. Also, the N+1 is likely, I want to say it won't, because that's what it looks like. It won't apply to occupational programs. There are obviously a number of reasons to that. but it is that it won't apply to occupational programs. So if you are funded for a 3-year qualification, you are expected to complete it in the 3 years and NSFAS be done with you. So there won't be instances where you've got a +1 or N+1. That's not going to apply. I'm sure another question would be, for example, if I've completed now up to N6, can I be funded for occupational programs? So for example, if students already funded for NCV programs, active colleges are eligible for funding on occupational programs, but starting from NQF level 5 and only for trades, occupational qualifications at NQF level 4. But then if you've gone up to N6, you can't be funded for an occupational program that is up to NQF level 6. You have to go higher, meaning you have to choose one that's an NQF level 7. So really the aim is to make sure that the student is taken, remember a degree at a university, a first degree, a 3-year degree, it's NQF level 7. So the aim is to make sure that with the occupational program, if you do go up to an NQF level 7, then it is then in terms of those NQFs then equivalent to the NQF level 7. So that is why if you've gone up to N6, you can't then go back and say, I want to start an occupational program that's of a lesser NQF, an occupational program. Then quickly, lastly, so one of the other problems that we've had, especially when we started funding occupational programs, more hairdresser last year, was the fact that colleges were starting or taking in students at different times of the year. So you'll find, and I'm only making an example, BCC wants to take students for hairdresser in May. This college wants to take them in April, another one in September, and all of that. And all of them are then sending inquiries to NSFAS to say the students also need to apply for funding. So in our sittings with DHEAD, it then became necessary to say, can we also standardize the intakes of occupational programs so that NSFAS then can align and standardize the applications for funding? Because you can imagine that we can't cater to the variations of what 50 different colleges want. It means we'll be processing application each month of the year. So the current proposal was that there be only 2 intakes, one in January and one in July. So DHEAD then will make sure that that gets standardized, and NSFAS will make sure that we do have applications for funding open during those academic those intakes as well. Obviously, if there's anything that will change, the final policy will then reflect those. The rest of the slides speak to student responsibilities when you've got a bursary. And I know that the NSFAS bursary is the only one where students actually tend to forget that it even is a bursary and that there are conditions that apply and all of that, but they really are. So there's the institution, there's NSFAS, there's the TVET college. All of us have got responsibilities to play, and if one of us doesn't, it obviously does affect the end result. So what you get to see as the payment is really at the last end. It's the last step in the chain. So that is why when payment doesn't happen, it's important to find out specifics in terms of why because it's not the first thing that happens in the chain, it's actually the last. And it's usually because there are certain things that did not happen that should have happened. I think I've already spoken to the fact that if you have one bursary here and another one there, you then need to choose. Also, when it comes to applications, it's the student's responsibility to make sure that all the appropriate documents are included, because you do get to have students that are in a waiting document stage for quite some time. And that is purely then the responsibility of the student to actually make sure that NSFAS has the documents that are needed. Also important, reading the policy so that you know what happens if I change my qualification. Remember, you can change a qualification, but only after one academic term. So if it's a 3-year diploma, you can't decide on year 2 or year 3 to change it. You can only change on year 1. Also, the responsibility of whether your N+ will still cover you, it rests on you. So it doesn't help that we allow you to change on year 3 and do a new one. Meanwhile, your N is not going to cover it. Also, when a student, if you, for example, go and register at a particular college, it does happen, especially in January, where, let's say your dream, you wanted to be in Cape Town, but you didn't get a space. You live in the Eastern Cape, you end up registering here, but within 5 days of registering in Cape Town says, hey, we've got a space. When you leave, it's important for you to deregister whichever college you're leaving, because it does catch up with you. When you get to the other side, now you've got 2 colleges that you are registered at. Both of them will submit a registration because you didn't register, but NSFAS, under no conditions are we then allowed to pay for same ID at 2 different colleges. That is where then we will stop, not pay any, until we get a clear indication of where you actually are. So you are actually disadvantaging yourself as the student if you're not going to deregister when you leave a college. Also, if you leave a college, do not deregister, decide to not study that year. In the books of NSFAS, it shows that you were registered at Buffalo City. You didn't deregister. Come the end of that year, we expect results because we didn't get a deregistration. So now if you want to come back into the system and study, we will say, you will apply, we'll say, okay, great, but you'll be stuck on confirming academic eligibility because in our books, it shows that you were studying last year. The college submitted a reg, we are expecting results. So it's important to deregister when you move and deciding not to study at any particular one. The policy does also further have the college responsibilities. You can read up on those. It also does have the NSFAS responsibilities. So NSFAS also has responsibilities to fulfill in the chain, and you can read up on those as well. This is a document that's on our website, and it is obviously in your interest. One, if you are a student that's funded by NSFAS, to read the document, but also secondly, if you are leading as the leaders that you are, it's important that you know what the conditions are, because students will come to you and sometimes you find that you are taking up a case, you are fighting for the student, but if you knew what the policy says, you would have known immediately whether the student qualifies or does not qualify. I'll hand over to my colleague Ukaya, will just briefly touch on how do you apply and also how do you lodge appeal and the processing thereof. Don't lie. Look, I was very quick.
Yeah, you're not quick. Say forgive. Say forgive. Okay. Awunayo sisi. Eyakho le. Uthumela kumyeke sisifana. Ngizawubamba ngaleyo. Good afternoon, leadership, and good afternoon, colleagues that are present here. I'll try and be as quick as possible, even though my presentation is 40 pages long. No, I'm joking. Usis Lungi had covered many of the topics that I was going to talk to. I'll mainly cover the eligibility criteria, required documents, creating my NSFAS account, and of course, apply for funding. So this is the NSFAS value chain, which Usis Lungi touched on it, but I will be brief on it, colleagues. As you can see, step number 1 within the NSFAS value chain is to prepare for the cycle, which is what we are currently doing now, since we are preparing to open applications by the 1st of September, and we are closing by the 15th of November. That is important to note, leadership, because I don't think we'll be opening the walk-in applications next year like we did in 2025. The second thing is to manage applications. That's where I come in. As Mr. Sonti had introduced me to say that I am in the application and appeal space, so I manage those applications in terms of processing the applications and all of that. So we manage applications in terms of, remember when the student applies, we've got SASA applicants, we've got non-SASA applicants. So the non-SASA applicants are the ones that we get to process and manage. That's where now we would require supporting documents for those students. But I will talk further in terms of what types of supporting documents we need. Determine eligibility, Sislungi had touched on that. There's 2. We assess you academically, we assess you financially. But those that we assess financially are mainly your F10 applicants as well as your returning students. But we do not assess financially the continuing students. Continuing students are students that were in the university or at the TVET last year, and they were funded by NSFAS, and they are simply migrated to the second year of their study or the third year of their study, as they are not required to apply. Confirm funding. We confirm funding after we have done the assessment in terms of academic and financial eligibility. When we confirm funding, we don't send you an email, we don't send you an SMS. That is why we always encourage students to check the portal, because the results will be on that portal. And of course, when we are done with that, we get the registration template from the institution and we disperse based on what the institution has claimed. I won't touch on that. Mrs. Lungi did speak to it. There are 2 types of support that NSFAS gives. There is a bursary, right? Which we all know that for you to qualify for a bursary, household income must be 350,000 or below. Now, NSFAS has also introduced the loan. This was introduced in 2023, December, and hence we had to extend the application cycle of 2023 so that we can allow those students. And the qualification criteria for a loan is an income that is below 600,000. It must be more than 350,000, but below 600,000. And of course, you know what the bursary cap is. With the loan, colleagues, remember with the bursary, we pay everything, including the allowances. But with the loan, we are only paying registration, tuition, accommodation, and those are the only things that we are paying in that space. And of course, book allowance for those that qualify for book allowances. But with the bursary, we pay everything. Now, who cannot apply for funding? Sislungi touched briefly, colleagues, on this. It's important. Like I said earlier, you do not apply if you have been funded by NSFAS. Year in, year out, we come across students that were funded last year and they are again applying. So it's important as leaders that you must speak to your constituencies regarding this process, because this delays the application process. So 100%, if you have a bursary already, let's say you are funded by ESCOM, you don't need to apply for funding. And of course, if you have obtained an undergraduate qualification, you do not need to apply because you are not going to be funded for a second undergraduate qualification. A student who has achieved the qualification already, and of course, the course that you are registered for, it must be SACA accredited. You cannot apply for a course that is not SACA accredited and expect NSFAS to fund you. We are not going to do that. And of course, you must be at a registered public institutions, meaning that there are 50 TVETs and 26 universities. The types of supporting documents, I think this one, leadership, is very important. As I said, I am dealing with application processing. I've got applications where we still await supporting documents from students, and we are closing those applications. So that is important to note. We've got the NSFAS declaration form. When do we need this? In cases where an applicant is saying they do not know their parents. Right? We used to ask for a legal guardianship document, but we realized that it is difficult for us as Africans to have the legal guardianship document. So we then opted for the NSFAS declaration form. It is on our website. You fill it in as a student. The person whom you are claiming to be your guardian must fill in that form. You take that form to your previous school principal, or you take it to a community social worker. Surely they should know that you have been living with your grandmother or your uncle, then they will certify that information. So that's the document that we are always fighting about, especially with student leaders. That is important, colleagues. Then we've got the orphan vulnerable child declaration form. Is more or less the same, but it's being filled in by those that are below the age of 18. Anyone above the age of 18 up to 34 years of age, and they claim they do not know their parents, they must fill in the NSFAS declaration form. The consent form is filled in by everyone who is non-SASSA. If you are not a SASSA recipient, you must submit that consent form. That is to give us consent to go to SARS or any credit bureau to get your income information or your parents' income information. So that form is very important. The guardianship document, more or less with the first form, which is the NSFAS declaration form, disability annexure form. Sis Lungi had spoken at length about it. You need to submit that form if you have claimed that you are disabled. Who must reapply? I think Mrs. Lungi touched as well on that. If you are moving from university to TVET, you must reapply, even though you have been funded by NSFAS. If you are moving from TVET to university or university to TVET, you must reapply. Students who have deregistered or dropped out, they must apply. And students who have not, you find students that have applied in 2026. So for 2025, but they are not studying in 2025 and they are provisionally funded. They do not go and reapply again for 2026. And then they would want to use the status of 2024 where they were provisionally funded, but they did not study. So if you did not study, even if you were provisionally funded, you need to go and apply again for the next academic year. I will pass through this. To start your application, colleagues, you need to have a valid email address, a valid cell phone number, and of course a valid ID number. And when you apply, it's important that you have those documents. But I will pass through this. Program director, Utin delayed. This is to create a profile, colleagues. We all know about it, right? I've spoken about this. Yeah, I think this one is important. You do get an option on the NSFAS portal to cancel your application. right? It used to be, we used to call this withdraw application, but it's canceling applications now because we picked up many students withdrawing those applications, and at a later stage, they do not know why. So what we have done now, when you click on cancel, the system will require you to upload a copy of your ID certified. You can't come again in 2 months to say you did not cancel your application or did not know. The fact that you had to upload a supporting document, it means that you have done that. Ngamabu. So statuses, colleagues. These are the NSFAS statuses, application submitted. It's clear you have submitted an application, you've created a profile, and submitted an application. What we picked up is students that are creating profiles, but they do not apply. For you to apply, you must have that status that says application submitted. Application in progress, we are doing all the checks internally with Home Affairs, with SARS and all the other stakeholders. And then verification is what I've spoken about. Those applications that must be verified by my department where we are checking all the supporting documents that you have submitted. So it will be on verification. Requesting financial and academic data. We request financial information from SARS. When we are waiting for that information, the status of your application will be requesting financial, academic data. When we have not received the results from institution, you would see now many of S2 students that were studying last semester, their applications are on awaiting financial and academic data because we have not received the results. So your application will be on that status. Assessing financial eligibility, we have received the information from SARS. Now we are assessing the information, whether it's above 350 or below 350, so we can make the decision. Awaiting academic results, I've spoken about that. Assessing academic eligibility, we receive results. We must check if you have progressed. If yes, we then give a funding decision. Your funding decision will remain on provisionally funded up until the institution provides us with a registration template. That's registration received. We have received everything, and then cancelled application, rejected. Straightforward. You know, when you are rejected, we reject you based on academic, we reject you based on financial eligibility. And that means that you can still you can appeal that decision. These are the appeal statuses. Nothing has changed from the appeal statuses that you know this year. This is what would remain on the system. Important to note, you've got 30 days to appeal, right? And if you don't submit the correct documents within that 30 days, your appeal on the application will be closed. So I think I'm almost done. I'm done, basically. These are just the rejection reason. Is what you see when you are rejected in terms of the rejection reason.
Presentation, it's set. Okay, let's give NSFAS a good round of applause. I know it's very late, ne? You must listen. No, the reason I'm saying I know it's very late, it's because, the last presentation, he has to rush it because you are making noise. He could barely hear himself presenting because you are making noise. Please, let's not do that. Now we're going to ask my colleagues to assist me with moving the mics. Ne? We're going to get questions. How many mics do we have? Roving mics, but can my colleagues assist me with that? Okay. I'll start from that row. Raise your hand without speaking. Raise your hand without speaking. Raise your hand without speaking. I'll wait for them to keep quiet. Ne? We have the whole night. We have all the time in the world. Like I said, colleagues, we have all the time in the world. We can even sleep here. Continue making noise. I'm saying, you don't want to ask questions, most you want to speak amongst yourselves. So I'll start with this row. So please do and sit. Yes, yeah, just here. Which college is that? EWC. You are number 1. Which one is that? CDB. You are number 2. Tswana North, you are number 3. Is that CDB again? Anduva? Oh, why do you look like the guy from CDB? Ehlanzeni. What's that other college behind you? Are you both from Mopani? Share the question. So one person from Mopani will ask it. The two of you just share. So Mopani after Ehlanzeni. Which college is that? Letaba. Okay, sharp. The SG and the TG. But I want to finish with you two. You'll be the last ones. Oh no, it's fine. The SG and TG. I'm going to go to this row. The rest you can lower them for now. I'm going to focus on these two. Which college is that? At the back. With the table next to Miss Baxter. Which table is that? Just behind Skukuni. Northlink, né? Northlink. So both of you from Northlink share the question. Ne? You must listen. Ne? Both Northlink hands, President and your colleague, please share the question. Sikukune, Moteo. Which college again? Share the question. And provincial chair. We'll start here.
Good afternoon. I am Shengyue Yuswa, the treasurer of EWC. I would like to know, let's say a student mistakenly applied for a loan and then the status doesn't move. What do we do to make it right?
Greetings to the House at large. My name is Rufula Mkonza. I'm the Deputy President of Citibank TVET College. I have 2 things I would like to bring out. It's a suggestion. Would it be possible for NSFAS to do road shows while the applications are still open? Like, for instance, the new students, N4s and level 2s, usually choose wrong cycles, and you find later in the stages when you are trying to assist them that it's because of lack of knowledge. As colleges, I know we try and speak to the N4s and stuff like that, but you find that they come in, they were quiet the whole time, and 3 months down the line, they're now owing the school, they don't get their allowances. Could we at least have more road shows in universities, more especially like in rural areas where they don't have access to like internet and stuff like that? can we can we have that? And
I'm going to say this for one last time. Ne? Please respect the speaker on the podium. You want to be respected when you speak. You must respect the person who's speaking. Yes, my apologies. Ma'am.
okay, and then one last one. May we also, like, I think in the appeals, because the presentation was rushed through, may we like have maybe a turnaround time or something of some sort that gives us like an idea of how it actually like kind of works, because you know, with time and student debt, and yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Tamian Chaweling, the SRC president of Tshwane North TVET College. I would like to acknowledge the presentation regarding the policies, but then we would have appreciated if some of the policies that were mentioned were in alignment with the accommodations, because of that is the currently burning issue regarding the students. Also, there were a few sections that I needed clarity on. I understand the fact that the accommodation policy was not even included, but I would appreciate the NSFAS officials to go through the sections and make us understand which is the norms and standard policy and the lease agreement policies, so that we can assist the student regarding the payments in order. Thank you.
Thank you. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. I know it's cuckoo. Don't do it. Don't do it. Arno Kabana, get. Don't do it. Yes, but
Amandla. Viva
also,
TVET Colleges, viva.
also,
I'm sorry.
don't do that.
Greetings in the house. I go by the name of Victor Gininda. I'm the SRC president of Ehlanzeni TVET College. Firstly, I would like to send my salutation to the NSFAS for funding occupational programs that qualify. I thought that the NSFAS will talk about accommodation, but they didn't. Mine is simple and short, like a miniskirt. I like to suggest if NSFAS will kindly include the college in terms of accommodation accreditations, because the college is the organ of the state and NSFAS is our donor. Why I'm saying that is because we're finding ourselves in a state whereby we are staying in residences that are not conducive for us. The reason why is because I'm not saying there's anyone taking anything, but they are taking those brown envelopes that cause conflict for us. Last but not least, I know Guti, we are in a space whereby students has turned to res managers. Student, resist yourself from that. UTG is coming for you. I would like to propose to Safet that in such progressive inductions, we invite SITA officials and other fundings, your RWSITA and FACET, because other students doesn't qualify for NSFAS. As I close, I would like to bring it to attention that since Comrade SK is in the NSFAS board, NSFAS is paying us very well, comrades. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director, to be given this
Yeah,
opportunity
okay.
to ask my question. My name is Petolo Malumane.
Please
and
hold the mic closer to you.
My name is Petolo Malumane, and I'm the academic officer of Mopani TVET College. And my question is directed to NSFAS. First question, can I get a clarity on the importance of training young minds? Because students are kicked out of accommodations, which is the accredited accommodations, whereas service providers are receiving the allowances. This outlines that the problem is these service providers. Second question is about uneven payments, because students have been getting 300, 600, and 700. The third question is, why is it that students who were staying at accredited accommodation previously are not funded the second year? The last but not least is about
IMA academic office. I said, colleagues, I said it. It was the last time. Respect the person on the podium. You will be angry when you want to raise your hand and I do not note you because you do not respect people that are noted. Let's not do that. My apologies, academic officer. Please continue.
Lastly, the previous speaker stated that there will be a progression of level 2 students. And my question is, does that mean that if there is that progression, the N plus rule will no longer apply?
Please repeat the question and bring the mic closer to yourself.
The previous speaker stated that there will be a progression of students in level 2 and 3. And does that mean that students will be funded in level 2 and 3, as that states that it cuts the N plus rule, as there will no longer be fails in level 3?
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Program Director. My name is Joseph, the President of Letaba TVET College. So can you please advise on the cut-off dates for NSFAS, or how do they go about the process? Because the only thing that we know is that they are being given, the colleges are being given the time frame to send the registrations, but we don't know how do they go about it, because we've got different programs in our colleges. We've got trimesters and also we've got the semester and NCV. So we want to know the criteria that they are using whenever they are sending the registration, and if ever, are they given the number in figures to say, we want 200 students from Letaba, we want 200 students from Mopane. Can you please advise on that one? And also the second question, which is the last one as well, I just want to know about the students whom their tuition fees were not paid fully. If ever, what is going to happen to them, because now they have to register and they are unable to register because their fees were not paid in full? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, SG. Hi, SG. Hi, SG. You thought you'll get away with it. Straight to your question, SG. Bring the mic closer, we can hear. Just wait. Yeah. You know, it's fine now. Just wait. Try the other one.
Direct sabotage.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chair. I thought I'm not going to ask or raise any input, but I have a serious concern, especially on occupational studies. You know, it's a new thing, so we need to look at it very carefully. because it can create a lot of chaos within the sector if we don't look at it very closely. My first interest, Chair, and worry on it, on the presentation, there are still questions under progression. And my worry is that there are students that were admitted last year, and even this year, there are still students. If we still have a question on that, what is happening with those students? Are they funded? If yes, what tool was it used? If not, kuzokwenzakalani ngaloma students, because now we're heading towards the end of the year. And already we don't know what's happening with progression. That's my first worry, Chair. The second one, Chair, under progression. The second one under occupational studies. It's the issue on QF level 6, because I heard that when it was presented by DHT that it ends at on QF level 8. But on the presentation of NSFAS, they said they only fund until level 7. Why they don't fund level 8? That's the second question. The last one, Chair. The last one, it's on two things. The reg received. There are students, and it was raised on the presentation, that there are students who don't receive money or funding, whereby they're on reg received. On my own knowledge is that when you're on reg receive, it means that you are waiting for a payment. The only time you can't wait for a payment, it's when you are rejected. Why is it so? Or did we get a different meaning of reg received? Or there is an error that is happening? An explanation on that. And an input check. I actually think that we should not phase out the process of walk-ins as yet. The campaign under application that is done by NSFAS is still not clear. And many students will end up being disadvantaged when it comes to January. Let's allow maybe 2 weeks on January to allow applications of students under NSFAS. Because whereby a college will open applications and students can't register because they don't have NSFAS. It's my input. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Nubala. TG.
I think
Ingwe, Wamba TG, Ingwe, provincial leaders of Free State, Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Nyangola. Ingwe, President up Nyangola. Yes. My apologies, TG.
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair. I think mine on occupational programs is just to maybe make a submission in terms of the N+1 rule not being applicable on occupational programs. I think it will also cause chaos in terms of how crucial these occupational programs are. Rather, let's regulate the N+1 rule on how it will be applicable on occupational programs. We can rather regulate it in saying that you will be only applicable for the N+1 rule if we have completed maybe 70 or 60% of the subjects that you were doing, not to entirely say that students will not be applicable to have access to the N+1 in occupational programs. The second one that I also want to make a submission on, it's, Chair, I think the working relation between FOAs and NSFAS servicing admins in terms of making sure that there is stability of distribution of allowances. You know, currently, Chair, there was a mistake that was done where student accommodation money was sent to students. Now, the reality is that we're guided by a policy that's saying any amount that enters a student account belongs to the student. But now, students are then now faced with a problem that was not caused by them. So if we can have accurate submissions in terms of what should go to a student, on those dates that are allocated for reg to be loaded. I think that can eradicate the problem. The last submission is the standard operations of the NSFAS systems. You see, when the presentation of applications, when it was done, we were given rejection reasons and all statuses that appear in the portal. But one can attest that that is not the only statuses that students see in the system. You see a student being rejected and subjected to an appeal, but a student status is sitting on appeal awaiting evaluation for more than a whole trimester if a student is a trimester, and the student appeal is resolved in the next trimester, while the student has actually forfeited funding for the upcoming trimester because of an appeal that is not moving. So if we can have a standardized system that will make sure that 2026 becomes a year that will speak to a system that is speaking directly to what the policy guides, I think we'll have a better 2026. Thanks, Chair.
Good afternoon. I am Zoe Abrams from Northlink College. I serve as our residence officer. So my first question is, if a student has completed the NQF level 4 at the same institution, does that student now required to do a completely new application in September for NSFAS, or does that student now, when registering in 2026, now just become a returning student? And then the second question is, based on the key highlights for 2026, are there any adjustments on the process of acquiring student accommodation for NSFAS accredited residences via the portal?
Thanks very much, the facilitator of the session. As I'm coming back, I've indicated that my name is Surprise Mutumi. I am the academic officer of Sekhukhune TVET College. I would like to highlight or make the NSFAS aware that yes, students have got a lot of issues at the campus level. But now, this NSFAS thing, it's as doodler of all the issues that students are confronted with.
Skokoon. I will ask this very nicely. Nah? I'll be patient with you, my leader. Let's keep quiet. Nah? I'll be patient with you, my leader. Nah?
Yes.
Let's ask the questions. Leave your statements and your views. You can always tell NSFAS outside this platform how you feel about them.
Okay.
Ask your questions. Do not preamble your questions. Also, do not ask your questions in a manner that might offend people. Let's do that. Let's work together, leadership.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
My apology, Chair. Okay, let me go straight to my questions or my comment, by the way. I would like to make the NSFAS aware that we're having an issue of accreditation in Limpopo, particularly in my royal region, because it's a very rural region. So now the problem there is that we do not have proper accommodations. Proper accommodations, I'm speaking of the accommodations that meet the standard and norms of NSFAS to can be accredited. So our students there are using empty rooms without any facility in it. So now the NSFAS came and imposed the system to us. It was imposed because we were just told this year to say you must be moved to accredited accommodations. We did not even know the word accreditation. We ought to go and visit the dictionary so that we're familiar with the word. So now, we're asking to the NSFAS to say, consider those areas that are not having the accredited accommodations. We're still looking for business people to come and build those accredited accommodations for our students. But now, our problem is that a student in Ikuruleni, it's been allocated over 4,000 rand. In fact, not Ikuruleni. Let me talk about maybe Tswana. No, I will say Ikuruleni. A student in Ikuruleni, NSFAS beneficiary in Ikuruleni, has allocated a budget of over 4,000 rand for accommodation. But a student who is living in a very rural area like Skukune, where I come from, they are told to claim only 600 to pay an empty room, because you were told you must claim according to how much we pay. So the only accommodations we have, it's an empty room without even a globe that will assist me to give me a light during the night when I want to read. So now, we're having empty rooms. So we want the NSFAS to consider it when amending the policy. To say now we don't have enough accommodations, we only have less than 200 beds as an entire college, accredited accommodations. So they must consider that at least we must allow these students to claim enough money. I don't know how much is that enough money. But if I was myself deciding, I was going to say the maximum amount. Like, listen, comrades, it can't be.
Ngokel, do you know why people will interject when you speak? Nah? It's because you are not asking questions, you are making statements. That's why people will interject. Listen. Now, I'm keeping quiet because I want you to finish. Nah? And I'm saying this respectfully. I want you to finish. But the session we are having, colleagues, even NSFAS colleagues, please listen to me. The reason we're opening this platform is for you to ask questions. It's not for you to make all rambling statements that you want to do. So I will plead with you for the last time, Kokele. Ask your questions. We've already heard about the issue of not enough beds, unaccredited accommodation. Consider it for next year. You consider that. NSFAS decides on the amounts based on the budget that they have. Let's move to your next question. If you do not have, kindly pass the mic to someone else.
Thanks very much, Chair. But it's unfortunate because the comments that I am making here, it's not my personal comments. I was sent by students. They are watching at home. If I will be doing an injustice to them. If I don't.
Okay.
So
let's do like this, nah? Let's do like this. To avoid me and you having a dialogue, nah? Let's do like this. And I said I'm going to be patient with you. Nah? I'm going to be patient. You will soon learn that all these other things do not add value, but the questions that you want to ask are the ones that you want to respond to. I'm going to give you, see, because I have time. I'm going to give you the next 3 minutes to make all the comments you want to make, then you move the mic. It's a special 3 minutes for you. Start now.
Thanks again, Chair. I am happy because the student at home, they can see it's not me.
Your 3 minutes has started.
I am trying to deliver their issues here, but I am not given that time and enough time to can deliver. So it's fine because they are watching. They can know what I was willing to. Thanks very much. Chair, it's clock time now. I start. So now, the reason why we're making comments, not questions, it's because the issues are already there. So we've realized that the NSFAS is not aware of the issues. The reason why we're saying it's not aware is because the policies amended was supposed to be responding to those issues. We're not going to stand here and have a long, maybe a presentation if it could be, because now I'm presenting because the NSFAS is failing students. They are ignoring students in the rural areas. No, it's fine. On this issue of accreditation, comrades. Lena, you have at Kurleni, you have a nice so I'm being disturbed. Can I be protected, Chair?
I'll tell you why. Yeah, leadership. I'm still giving you 3 minutes. Continue again.
Thank you.
Don't stop for now, girl.
So now, we are saying to NSFAS, be aware that there is students who are using empty rooms, not because they want to use those empty rooms without beds and other facilities, simply because the environment where they come from, it's rural. People they don't know things like of other places. So now we're saying, consider in your policies, look around it to say at least allow these students to claim at least more. It can be 4,200 as we equal it to this one's of equally. When it is 4,200, because they don't have an accredited accommodation, not because they want, but because of the environment. So you cannot punish them for that. Give them that 4,200. They will then go and buy beds, buy stove, so that they don't use an empty room without any facility. Because I can't sleep on the floor and you expect me to answers when a lecturer asks me in the morning next day. It can't be correct, comrades. So we are saying, NSFAS, consider that. You must give us that money. The money was allocated to fund our studies. Give us this money, it belongs to us. Thank you very much.
Okay. Wait, Sonto, wait. You're making noise. So I allowed him to do that, and it's for the last time. Won't allow anyone to. If you want to have a question, ask a question. Don't be a populist about it. Be clear, straight to your questions. The point was long delivered. NSFAS consider, this is what the student was saying, consider in your policy the issue of accredited beds and so forth, and the rural setting of where our institutions are. You will respond to that. I'm sure you already have an answer to it. But we must never, the whole grandstanding does not add value to the discussion. Must mature beyond that. It's nice for claps and likes, but it does not add value to the content. Now, let's have the president of Motel. Let's keep quiet and respect the speaker on the podium.
Thank you, Program Director, for allowing me this wholesome opportunity as well. I'd also stand to request that you pardon my letter speaker for behaving in a manner. I believe it's a manner of passion for the students that he's leading. And I believe we are all here to serve one purpose, and that is to actually champion the leadership and actually see to it that we drive the change in the TVET sector. So for that, I pardon you too, Council Member. And that being said, I would like to actually ask a few questions to NSFAS, as well as offer my inputs, or maybe per se put more suggestions to it. We've got an issue, NSFAS, about when it comes to the paying of fees for students. We find that we understand that NSFAS has a relationship with institutions to actually pay these fees in tranches. That seems to be a very huge, pending issue, a problem in the TVET sector, because to a certain extent, students are actually left with a debt in their portal. When they're supposed to register in January in other institutions, you find that students are still left with 4,000 plus in student fees. Where else these students are actually, in the knowledge that they're actually funded by NSFAS and their fees are actually paid. I think that's something that needs to be looked into, Chair. Secondly, there is the issue of the rapid change of statuses. This is a long-standing issue. I believe we have actually went way beyond that segment where we need to actually, be transformational in the stance on the technological basis. I believe NSFAS can actually do better on this point because we've got students who actually apply earlier than most, but then their statuses tend to take the entire semester without actually changing. Students have to rely on back pays. As much as they have to rely on back pays, they already have other debts. They've already found other means to actually, sustain themselves well within this semester. I believe that's something that needs to be looked into and questioned. I believe that's something the official can actually, make us understand or balance us by. There's an issue as well with responses. We as students, we expect to actually have a viable landline or an open kind of relationship with NSFAS. When we call NSFAS or when students call NSFAS, they expect nothing but a response with a friendly gesture, taking their claims to consideration and relaying the message to the relevant offices, as well as offering a response to the students as to what issues they have and what resolute they can actually bring to the table. That's something that has been lacking for quite some time now. I think it's plus minus years. The landlines do not work. The students send emails. They try by all means to equip themselves with the soft skills. They try to send emails. Emails are not responded to, not taken into consideration. I think that's something that can be looked into as well. I would like to also touch on the issue of regular inspection in accredited accommodations. As my letter speaker or fellow council member has spoken, that students tend to find themselves in not so conducive environments where they stay. Landlords are actually lying to institutions or the training young minds, saying their facilities are actually A grade or B grade. And we find students staying in these environments, and they are very much accredited, of which it baffles me half of the time, because now there needs to be a process that is put in place for these places to be accredited. But yet again, even when these students are actually finding themselves living in these accredited accommodations, they find themselves facing the very same gruesome challenges that they were actually running away from what? Self-paying accommodations. I think that's something that needs to be looked into, Chair. Also, in terms of occupational studies, Chair, we need NSFAS to actually answer We've got students, occupational students at Motel who are actually NSFAS funded. They need to actually write emails to us. We have sleepless nights. Students are sleeping without any food because now NSFAS is not actually paying on time. NSFAS takes its time before it actually considers those occupational students. That's something that needs to be looked into as well. In closing, I have a question. We have an N+1 rule that is stated in the policy of NSFAS. My question is now, if a student comes from the NCV faculty now, they've been passing the entire time, registration received all the way through. They actually now have aspirations to pursue their qualification in the needed faculty as well. I just want to know, to what extent does the N+1 rule play factor in this situation? Does the N+1 rule still continue to play, or is the N+1 rule revoked as soon as the student is revoked? Secondly, there is an issue. I saw a statement in the the last NSFAS official that says now the people that are actually eligible to gain funding are students that come from universities and coming to TVET. In my own knowledge is that we only go up. That's something in these what you call workshops. You are only able to work up, not down. That's what the NSFAS official keeps on telling us. That you are not eligible if you come from UFS, whether you come from the Witwatersrand or the University of KwaZulu-Natal. You can't go back to a TVET college and expect to be funded by NSFAS. But then the very same document contradicts what has been stated in our institutions all the way around. May that also be kindly be rectified. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, President. Thank you. Now,
Sorry.
Orbit, it's you guys.
Good evening, Chairperson, Program Director.
Please hold, let me protect you a bit. Colleagues, especially from this side, you know, we're going to allow you to ask questions. I'm sure it will not be nice for these ones to make noise. Ne? It will definitely not be nice. Let's respect the speaker on the podium. My apologies, President. Leadership, please continue.
Good evening, Program Director.
Pull the mic closer to yourself. Yeah.
I'll just be direct to the questions. I'll be
your name, your position.
Oh, my name is Mbuso Shabalala. I'm the SRC president of Orbit TVET College. I have 5 questions, but I'll just be straight to the point. The first question is, why can't NSFAS send students notifications for urgent matters via SMS? The second question is, okay. Some students did not receive their meal allowance since last year. Why is that so? The third question is, why are accredited accommodation students transferred to the transport students? The fourth question is, some students' statuses have since been provisionally funded since last semester. The fifth question is, when an applicant applies, they are given an option of a laptop. What happens to the laptop if it doesn't come whilst the student chose it? Thank you.
Okay. We still have, we still have my colleagues who are, lower your hands, I'll note you. I think colleagues, some questions that are operational. Ne? Do you know your servicing admin? The person that services Orbit. I'm just using you as an example because you just spoke now, President. Ne? Do you know your servicing admin? So there's a lady there. Just stand up, President. I want to show you. Stand up, President. And there's a lady there with a white headband. A lady. Yeah. She services Orbit, Taletso, and Vusalela. Ne? Questions that are more operational to the campus. I would love that tomorrow you please engage the operational ones, but they will still respond to some. Ne? The ones around the number of students who did not receive meal allowances, the number, those operational ones, you will respond. We're fine with that. Thank you so much, President.
Greetings.
Aubrey, wait, we are making noise, President. We are making noise. I can hear your voice from far, President. Okay, thank you. Chairman.
Greetings. My name is Mduduzi Mhlongo, and I will be completely different to my height. And mine is simple. It's a request to NSFAS, specifically the accommodation and the system of NSFAS. We are requesting a student to say, can they integrate both those systems? We cannot have different informations of one beneficiary. And number two, we are requesting to say within the accommodation, I think I'm also submitting this to the NEC, specifically the SG, to say, can we also be given as the student leadership to revert back to this accommodation thing? Because one, we want to know if there's a campus that doesn't have accredited accommodation, what is the way forward for that? We know there are certain discussions that are done, but can we have a document that is neutral to everyone? It mustn't be the discussion of the college. Thank you.
Thank you. In actual fact, Chairman, I've noticed that you are not tall. Ne? We are just short. There's a man from CDB who's taller than you. I did not think I will see that with my naked eyes, but it's true. There's a man who's taller than you. You are shorter than that man. So even though I'm shorter than you, but I'm taller than someone else. Nah? This row. Water bag, right to each other. There's another one there at the back. That's what the back. Right to each other, who's going to speak? You'll decide on seniority, who's most senior in SRC. So I'll still note you Waterbeck as the first one in this line, but only one of you. Sukukuna, yeah? Only if I knew, I'd have said add to that 3 minutes, but I'll note you as number 2. Is it EEC? Is your hand up? EEC President. West Coast, ne? West Call. Which college is that? Southwest Gauteng. I've noted you, Waterbeck. The guy next to you, I've noted you. So you and the Deputy President will decide who's the guy next to you in that, or Waterbeck. Yeah, you. I was Terry. You from Waterbeck? Which college? Come again? No, you and Tabi speak. You and the president, because he raised the hand as well. Say. So I've noted West Call. You were not sitting there, you just moved from one side. Which college are you from? Etegwin. So Etegwin, you'll be the last in this group. So it would be Waterbeck, it will be Sekukune, it will be EEC, it will be West Coast, it will be Western TVET College, it will be Southwest Gauteng, and then Tegwin will be the last. Waterbeck start. Let's keep quiet, colleagues.
Greetings to the House at large. I go by the name of Bontle Rasugu, the Secretary General of the legendary Waterberg TVET College. My question to NSFAS is very simple. Why does the NSFAS reject students whose parents are unemployed despite the clear financial need? What specific criteria or assessment processes lead to this outcome, and are there potential solutions or alternatives that could be explored to support these students in accessing higher education? Another question is that some students who apply for accommodation through the portal are rejected, yet they receive only the personal care and living allowance component of their funding. What are the underlying reasons for this inconsistency? Thank you.
Receive my fraternal greetings, fellow compatriots. My name is Moloto Kwena Judith from the mighty Sikukune. I am the SG of Sikukune TVET College. We have a burning issue at Sikukune TVET College in regard to textbooks. Our college buy textbooks on our behalf with the allowance that we receive from NSFAS. After my investigations, I found out that NSFAS actually pay 50% of book allowance beforehand. So the issue now is that if students do not return textbooks to the college withhold the results from student whose the textbooks were bought with the allowance that was distributed from NSFAS. So my question is that, isn't it that when NSFAS pays our study material on our behalf, isn't it that the study material is ours, it belongs to us? The college has no right to claim it back, hence it's not their money, it's ours. Okay, the other question that I have is that what is the agreement between DHEAD and also NSFAS in regard to book allowance? Yes, it's our money. The other question that I have is how often does NSFAS actually do follow-ups on or actually conducting investigations on how best students are governed in terms of the money that is distributed to our colleges? The other thing is that I would like to recommend that let us have our book allowance money given to our accounts, because you would find that in our college, students do not have textbooks, but their allowance are paid into college accounts. So I kindly have a submission that kindly we request, as the SG of Sikukune TVET College, I would like to request NSFAS to actually consider distributing or actually paying the book allowance into our accounts so that we buy those textbooks on our own. Thank you.
Okay. Colleagues, I'll ask this one last time. You know, we're doing very well with questions. We're doing very well. Don't mess that thing up. We're doing very well. Let's leave unnecessary statements. Ask your question. Be straight to the answer. Ask your questions. Leave other things, colleagues. Leave other things. You're wasting someone else's time. President of EEC.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Akashia Sinuku. I'm the president of Ekoroleni East TVET College. I was not here during the presentation, so I'm not sure whether the issue of private accommodation phasing out was touched. But in EEC, we are facing a problem of private accommodation allowances or private accommodation being phased out, and instead of our students getting the allowance of transport as they were phased out to transport, they are getting living allowances, which means they are getting living allowances to pay rent and they have nothing to use in terms of eating. It's the matter that we are facing, which is we are not aware that we are getting 4,000s, but we are getting living allowances instead. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Good day to all. My name is Zintle Godongwana from West Coast College, and I'm the Secretary General. Okay. My first question is, who does qualify for the loan and how long does it take for you to pay the loan? The second question is the payment for NCV cycle, how does it work? Because the students are paid double net, but on November they doesn't receive the payment. It's been happening for 2 years now.
Greetings, leadership in the house. I am Tswenyanen Tabiseng, SRC president from the Western TVET College. I would like to engage NSFAS and DHET on the contingency plans that are put in place for accountability. Because on the NSFAS guideline documents, page 30, point 31, I think bullet 6.2.1, it speaks boldly about the responsibilities of the TVET institution. However, I stand to believe that sitting here, everyone, we are facing the same problem whereby our FOAs are not responsible enough in submitting data that is required by NSFAS in order for our student statuses to progress to the next level. That causes delays in NSFAS allowances being disbursed. So we have been speaking about this accountability, but till thus far, nothing has been said. So I would like to know what is it that we as SAFETA or the leadership need to do for both NSFAS and DHET to adhere to the accountability contingency plans put in place for both the FOAs and NSFAS service providers to adhere in the loading of registration data for the students. And the other question is that we would like to know the criteria that is used for selecting students who qualify for accommodation and how long does it take. Students who don't get space in their accommodations under the institutions who are having accredited accommodations and those that do not have accredited accommodations. How does the institution get into agreement with NSFAS as to how much is a student that is in an institution that doesn't have accredited accommodation going to receive as allowances? Thank you.
Okay. Colleagues, you see, I'm noticing that a lot of colleagues who are using shuttles, their shuttles are picking them up. So if you have thousands and thousands of questions, you'll engage the administrators tomorrow about them. And one last thing, yes, ma'am. One last thing. To my colleagues at the back, please come back to the venue, colleagues. It's difficult that we must look for you when your student is not feeling well and we can't find you. You are responsible for your students, colleagues. It's difficult now that we must look for you everywhere and we can't find you. To my colleagues from, anyway, please come back, colleagues. Let's limit our questions just to 2, colleagues. Other things you'll deal with them tomorrow. The administrators are here tomorrow. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Program Director. My name is Tokelo Mokhani, Secretary General of Southwest Gauteng TVET College. So I've got 2 clarity-seeking questions. The first one is, there are students that are being put on the loan, the NSFAS loan, but their family household is below 350. Why is that so? And then the second question is, if my family income changes during my academic year, how does that affect my NSFAS funding? Will my funding be discontinued or converted into a loan? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Let's give him. I'm limiting you only to 2, colleagues, not more than that. It's a privilege that I'm doing.
Revolutionary greetings. I am Mahlatse Sewoba from Waterberg, the Deputy President. My question is simple. Why can't NSFAS launch their own service provider, which will be responsible for student accommodation, instead of using these service providers companies, which are now failing to champion the interest of the students? Because now students are left abandoned in baddest accommodations ever. Because service providers only came once, registered and left. But if it was a service provider launched by DHET and NSFAS, it will be controllable because we will know where to go when facing such problems. And again, we are calling on NSFAS and DHET to launch their own service provider, which will be friendly user to student. It will also help with percentage of money which is used to pay those service providers to help students who are suffering with receiving allowances.
Yes, Kokel, 2 questions. 2 questions.
It was 1.
Never. Summarize the last one. Don't read statements. What's your question? Yes, the last one. What's your question?
Okay, last month students received allowance, shooting allowances. So my question to NSFAS is, what caused that situation? Thanks.
Okay. Let's take that question. Who's the administrator of Waterberg? It's Pindil, eh? Do you know Pindil? Yeah? Please engage her on the question. Now, this row, 2 questions. Which college are you from? Usalela, 2 questions. College of Cape Town, 2 questions. Which college is that? Oh, bam. The richest people in Mbupu. Ikala, 2 questions. I can't see the hand behind. BCC, 2 questions. What's the, yeah? KSD, 2 questions. Which college are you from? 2 questions. The last one? Lovedale, 2 questions. No statements, just questions.
Yes, sir.
Greetings to the House at large. I am Karabo Sabasaba from Vuselela TVET College, the ISRC president. My question to NSFAS is, why is NSFAS delaying to pay tuition fees but able to pay for allowance and accommodation allowances? Because this results to students being disadvantaged to enroll or register for other semesters in terms of they be owing the college. Fast forward, the debt continue to increase semesterly and yearly, so where students end up dropping out because of being unable to pay the institution. My second question is, what standard procedures are being followed by NSFAS in order to secure accreditation of accommodation in TVET sectors? Thank you.
College of Cape Town, straight to the point, 2 questions.
Through you, Chair. My name is Louisa Mahashi. I am from College of Cape Town, the SRC Secretary General. So the first one is a request, and then the second one is a question. So the request is, we would like for NSFAS to emphasize on the private accommodation landlords to stop asking for upfront deposit from the students. And then the question, according to my knowledge, students are funded for 10 months of an academic year, but yet students are forced to vacate the residence during March and September breaks. The question is, are they allowed to do so? Because now the curiosity lies in where the money goes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bembe, 2 questions, straight to the point.
Okay, thank you everyone. Madam Bolamanene, Emina Tumisani Bureni, the president ya Bembe TVET College. Anerna sibutiso swo hlayanyana kambe maka kankari ntatsandeka kufika kwalano. So my first question. My first question.
Wait, President, wait. Your colleagues, I asked you respect the speaker on the podium. If you cannot hear what, President, if you cannot hear what he's saying, allow me to try and interpret it for you, but keep quiet. Let's continue, President.
Thank you, Chair.